What is the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula is another way or another method for solving a quadratic equation. Be sure the equation is written in standard form. Standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c, and it has to be set equal to 0. If it's not, you cannot solve. From there, you're going to use this formula. This is the quadratic formula, and you can memorize it by singing it to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel. So it goes something like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, that's going to be something you're going to have to memorize when you're doing this, and you're going to use the quadratic formula to solve this first one. So you notice that it's in standard form. It has an a value, a b value, and a c value. So I'm going to put it into this formula. So I have x equals opposite of b, or negative b, which would be negative 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which would be 7 squared, minus 4 times our a, which is 2, times negative 9, which is our c, all over 2 times our a value. From there, we are going to simplify. So I would have x equals, now I had negative 7 plus or minus the square root. Now 7 squared is 49. And then you're going to take 49 minus 4 times 2 times a negative 9. So negative 4 times 2 gives you 8, or negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 9 gives you 72. So you would have 49 plus 72 all over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. So from here, you're going to do x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 121. Divide that by 4. Your first step is see if you can simplify this square root. In this case, 121 is a perfect square, so it's going to be a perfect value. In other cases, you might have to take out the greatest perfect square value. So for this one, you would have x equals a negative 7 plus or minus 11 over 4. In this, it's showing that you have two solutions. So with the quadratic formula, you might find out that there's one solution, no solutions, or two solutions. In this case, we have two. So I have x equals negative 7 plus 11 divided by 4, and I have x equals negative 7 minus 11 divided by 4. Well, negative 7 plus 11 gives me a positive 4 divided by 4 is going to give me x equals 1. So that's my first solution. My next solution is going to be it's going to be x equals negative 18 over 4. And I can simplify that to x equals negative 9 divided by 2. So my two solutions are x equals 1 and x equals negative 9 divided by 2. My next one, I notice that it's not in standard form and I have to get everything equal to 0. But I don't want to move this because I want this to always stay positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 7m and subtract the 2. So I would get 4m squared minus 7m minus 2 equals 0. So now I'm going to use the formula again. I have my a, my v, and my c. So I'm going to do x equals my b, which is 7, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared, because it's my b squared, minus 4 times 4 times a negative 2. So and then all over my 2 times my 4, because 4 is my a value. It's going to be x equals, now it's going to be 7 plus or minus the square root of 49, and then I have a negative 4 times 4, which gives me a negative 16, times a negative 2, which is going to be plus 32. Then it's going to be all over 8. From there, I'm going to simplify. So I have x equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 81 over 8. because 49 plus 32 is going to give me 81. Now I look at my radical and see if I can simplify. So I can see if I can simplify. So I have 7 plus or minus the square root of 81 divided by 8. 81 is actually a perfect square, so it goes out evenly. So I have x equals, it would be 7 plus 9 divided by 8. And x equals 7 minus 9 divided by 8. So 7 plus 9 is going to give you 16 divided by 8, which is going to be x equals 2. This one I have 7 minus 9, which is going to give me negative 2 over 8, which simplifies to x equals negative 1/4. My last one I have, it's not in standard form, and I want to make sure my a value stays positive, so I'm going to move everything else over. So I'm going to subtract the w and I'm going to subtract the 6. So I'm going to have 5w squared minus w, and then 4 minus 6 is going to give me a negative 2 equals 0. I have my a, I have my b, and I have my c. So I have x equals negative b, or the opposite of b, so I have 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so I have negative 1 squared minus 4 times 5 times a negative 2, all over 2 times 5. From here, I'm going to have x equals 1 plus or minus the square root, which is going to be negative 1 squared is 1 plus 40 all over 10. To simplify, I'm going to have x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 41 divided by 10. Now in this case, 41 cannot be simplified, so from here, I'm just going to leave this as my final answer because I can't take out a perfect square value from 41. So I still would have my two solutions. My first solution would be 1 plus the square root of 41 divided by 10. My other solution would be 1 minus the square root of 41 divided by 10.